Sando, selection-wise, I know it still comes out in a little while, but can you give us a bit of an insight of where we're at?
Yeah, we're all. I guess the major one is from 4:30 after match committee today. We'll be a bit clear on Tex, so he'll either play. Well, he's really close, so he'll either play tomorrow night. He'll play next week in the State League, but I guess from 4:30 this afternoon we should be a bit clear on that. But yeah, things are looking pretty good.
So what happens between now and 4:30 that makes you clarify that decision?
Well, he got through training today pretty well, so we'll just get together and with Tex, our physio, club doctor, and Tex himself, and then we'll have a discussion. And if he's confident to go, then we'll select him tomorrow night.
So it's his call in the end, is it?
Yeah, ultimately it's his call. He's had approval from the surgeon, but we'll put our heads together this afternoon, and if he feels comfortable to go, doctor, physio, Tex, myself, we'll make that decision this afternoon.
If he plays, what will be the process from here? Just say if he's selected tomorrow night, does he play half, or if he's not, how does it work from here?
I think he'll probably play about 70% in his first game back, which means he can play 4 quarters, but he'll have time on the interchange. And also we've just got to be aware that he hasn't played footy for 12 months, almost to the day. So we'll certainly ease him back. I think he'd probably need 2 State League games at least before he was to make a return to the AFL team. But that depends a little bit on his form as well. If he's playing really well, or if he looks a bit rusty, we'll make a sort of call week by week. But my gut feel is that he'd need 2 games back in the State League before he was selected at AFL level.
The second game back next week anyway in the SANFL is at Clare.
Yep.
Will the Oval might impact the decision?
No, I don't think so. I mean, as you say, I didn't even think about that. But if the Oval's okay, he'll certainly play next week in Clare. Yeah, that shouldn't be an issue.
Do you think people like it? So he's a bit like a Cage Lion at the moment?
He's up and about. He's always up and about anyway, Tex. But yeah, this week it seems like more than ever. He's getting excited. He's getting anxious, and he just can't wait to get out there, I think. So, as I said, we're really close. It's been 12 months to the day practically since he's played. So that's. It's been a long time coming, but for him now, I guess we're right at the pointy end, and it's almost time to go. So yeah, can't wait to see him back out there.
Was he ready 2 weeks ago, or is this a real cautious approach?
We had to get final approval from the surgeon. That's happened. He's met with the surgeon. Surgeon's happy with the knee. I've got a report in my office which is about 8 pages long, which just goes through everything that he's been through in the last 12 months. And his knee is stronger than what it was prior to the injury. We've benchmarked, strength testing, agility testing. He's in a great position. He's ready to go. So he should take a lot of confidence in playing. But once again, I think we'll all be holding our breath, and we'll all have our fingers and toes crossed that he gets through those first few games.
How long will it take before he gets back to his best, do you think?
Subjective, I guess. Hopefully, from our point of view, it won't take him long. He's a natural footballer. You know, he's looked great on the track since Christmas. He hasn't really missed a session. 1 or 2 here or there with a bit of tightness, but he hasn't missed a beat really since Christmas. And he's been in most of the competitive drills. He's done some controlled contact, but we've let him loose the last couple of weeks, and he's looked great. So we're hopeful that it won't be long before he's back to his best.
Obviously, Dougie out this week through suspension. Grigg and Lyons, are they the 2 key candidates to replace him, or what are you going to do there?
Yeah, I'd say Grigg, Lyons, Martin, Otten, probably the 4 that'd be right in the mix. I've liked Cam Ellis-Yeoman's form too for a couple of weeks now in the State League. But there's probably 4 or 5 guys. I mean, that team had a good win last week, and there's some guys really putting their hand up. Paul Pleasure as well. He's been battling a little bit with a back injury, but his first half in the State League last week was also very impressive. So we're starting to get some guys back from injury. Otten, Lynch, Paul Pleasure, potentially Walker. So finally now we're looking to get almost a full strength squad back with still Henderson, Crouch, Van Berlo, still the other ones who need to come back in at some point. Rutten won't play this week. He's just not back to freely moving. So he trained today, but he won't play this week. It's one of those ones where It's the agility that we have to tick off with him. He's the same though, a bit like Tex. He's really raring to go, but just want to make sure that his agility and his ability to change direction is 100% before we bring him back.
How are you on the path? Obviously, you had a slow start to the season, but looked great in the last 2 weeks. Where are you in happiness out of 100?
Out of 100, that's a good question. We're starting to get back there. It just feels like the last 2 games, the last 8 quarters have felt a bit more like us. It felt like we've controlled the game. The 3 games prior to that, the first 3 rounds of the season, we were chasing. We were the ones that were trying to get back into the game. We felt like in those first 3 games, even though we hit the front against Geelong, we hit the front in the showdown in the 3rd quarter, it still felt like the opposition had, I guess, the momentum in key parts of the game. But the last 8 quarters have felt more like us. We're playing against the good side this week, though. You know, the Bulldogs have played some really good footy in patches this year. If you allow them to play their style, they can really embarrass you. So we need to do our very best to play our style and control the game this week as well.
So what's their style?
When they beat us last year, they were able to win inside the contest. So guys like, you know, Boyd, Liberatore could control it inside. But then outside the contest, you know, guys like Cooney, Griffin, Murphy, this year it's been Higgins as well. You know, those guys can actually hurt you on the outside of the contest. So when they get their handball receives up, they had 48 marks in the last quarter against GWS. When they can control their game plan, win it inside, win clearance, win contested ball, and flick it outside to those, you know, guys with outside speed and run, that's when they can really hurt you. So, yeah, we'll need to be at our best this week if we're going to beat them.
Your favourites, marginally, but you haven't beaten the Doggies in your last 5 games. You played against them at Docklands going back to 2002.
Yep.
How much of a concern is that, and why have you struggled against
Yeah, it's an interesting point. I mean, we don't really look at... Oh, we certainly look at the last time we played them and maybe even the time prior to that, but the team's very different now. We've changed the way we've played a fair bit. I think since the last time, even it was late last year, our game plan's adjusted a little bit. We need to defend them really well though, and I still think we can kick a winning score. It's whether we can actually defend their run and carry, their short kick game as well, you know, when they're playing well, and particularly their clearance and contested ball numbers. I mean, you look at their inside mids versus our inside mids, you look at their outside players compared to our outside players, it does set up a really interesting game.
Test my memory, I think last year when you lost them by about 17 points, you kicked 17 goals, they might have kicked 20.
Yep.
That's not the sort of game you want to see this weekend. I know you made a comment about trying to restrict opposition after the GWS game.
Yep.
Do you want to make it more of a slow fest?
Definitely, that didn't suit us last year, and you can remember last year I was really upset. You could see you've probably still got the vision of me really upset at quarter time in that game. The shootout style of footy doesn't suit us. We prefer to keep it in a contest, keep it inside, at the right times in the game, open it up and run. But when it's like a game of basketball, you know, like you said, 20-goal shootouts, both teams, is not the way that we want to play and not the way that I want to coach. So I'd prefer an uglier visual, but for us at the right times to put speed on the game. But we don't want the opposition to dictate the speed this week for sure.
Brendan, can I take over our conversation from Sundays now?
Yes.
Included?
Yep.
What's your take on the bump and where it stands in footy?
We fully support the AFL in their endeavours to make sure the game is safer. We don't want to see players with any head injuries. You know, concussion is a hot topic, and we certainly understand that. And we support the AFL in their endeavours to make the game safer. The Douglas bump was an interesting one because there was no clash of heads. I know the umpire who made the report said he thought he said that there was a clash of heads. You know, the vision that we had, and you know, speaking to Douglas, speaking to Ward, we felt there was no clash of heads. However, the player was concussed. We'll certainly accept the Douglas penalty, and we'll adjust the way that we coach to ensure that we're not put in that situation again. It's just not worth it. We have to ensure that we don't lose players from bumping the opposition.
So what's the advice then to a player?
When placed in that same situation again, it'll be instructed to shepherd rather than to bump. So, Yeah, that's to block the player's run rather than bump from the side. The bump is still very much alive in our game, but the way that the Douglas bump, obviously now we have to remove from our game plan.
How's that conversation going with Richard?
Oh, he's okay. He accepts it. I mean, he was on his way off the ground, and he felt that Ward knew that he was there and was surprised when he had, I guess, that opportunity to block him. But from now on, in that situation, Richard knows, our team knows, we'd prefer our player to shepherd or block the opponent rather than to bump. So that's just been the instructions for our players this week, and that's the way we'll coach from here on in.
Does he now set up, everyone in the competition should understand, you have any action that leads to concussion, you'll pay a price for it?
Yeah, really good point. I think now, not that Douglas will be the case study, I think probably we've seen the Fife one a couple of weeks ago. If you choose to bump and there's a clash of heads, there'll be a report made and a suspension. If you choose to bump and a player is concussed, there's going to be a suspension. So we understand where the game is at the moment. We will coach accordingly from here on in.
What about the argument that goes pretty well out in fanland that it makes the game soft? Is it a case of being soft or being safe?
It's a case of being safe, yeah. And as I said, our football club and me as coach, we do support the AFL's endeavours to make the game safer. It's important that we reduce the amount of concussions in our game. Simple as that.